Hi everyone, welcome back to the Amamansa Network. This is Cam, and today we're going to look at four more Jamaican wise sayings. Come make we chat Jamaican. So today we're going to look at the first one, which is we have a saying: you put your hand in it, you put your hand in another one here, or you put your foot in another one here. Right? So, literally, what this would mean is you have put your hands and your feet, or your hands or your feet, into it. Um, that basically makes no sense in its literal um, meaning because we're talking about food, right? We're talking about food. So, literally, if the person is putting their foot into the food, you would not want to eat that, right? Although I remember when I was little, and there's this Bob Marley song that says, "We've been trodden on the wine press much too long," and I was chanting the song, "We've been trodden on the wine press." I remember my auntie asked me, "Do you know what a wine press is? You know what that's all about?" And to be honest with you, I didn't know. And then later, I came to find out that in the making of wine, or I don't know if it's still done now, but at least traditionally, you know, people would literally be stomping on the grapes. So I hear, right? They would be the actual wine press, they would be pressing the grapes with their feet. If it is not true, you can let me know, but that's what I know of, right? So there are some foods that are prepared in a way that if you really understood how they were prepared, it would freak you out and you would not want to have anything to do with that food. But basically, for most persons, if you would literally put your foot in the food, or even to put your bare hands in the food, they would not want to partake of it. So the literal meaning for this is not really appealing. But what we really mean in Jamaica when we say you put your hand in another one here, or you put your foot in another one here, which is even better, we're really saying you have given it all you got. You gave it all you've got. When you were making this meal, you gave it everything that you've got. So it's actually a compliment, right? It's actually a compliment when you invite somebody over to eat, and they eat the food, and they say, "Boy, you put your foot in another one here, or you put your hand in another one here." That means they're telling you that the food was damn good. It was great. They enjoyed it. So it's not just the knives and the spoon and the pots that went into the preparation of this food. You put your whole personality, you put your all your skills, all your passion, all of your love into it. I'm a person who I always make juices for my kids, for my partner, for myself, and they call it love juice. And there's a reason they call it love juice. It's because I always explain to them that when I am making juice in particular, all of the love I have for them goes into it. In the selection of the fruits, all the ingredients are specially chosen. I have a very high standard when it comes to selecting my fruits and veggies. I choose the best. It must be ripe properly, preferably organic. I select them. And then the whole process of making the juice, the squeezing and the blending, mixing, all of those things together. A lot of passion goes into it. And that's why they call it love juice, because I put my soul into the making of it. And this is what people are talking about when we say you put your hand in it or you put your foot in it. Tradition, there are some things in Jamaica that we make. Traditionally, you would have to use certain tools that would give you a really intimate connection with the food. For example, our favorite meal in Jamaica on a Sunday is rice and peas. Right? Rice and peas with, for those who eat meat. I don't eat meat anymore since I was a teenager. Only a little fish, but most Jamaicans do eat meat, and so you'd have on a Sunday you must have your rice and peas with chicken or with beef or with fish or whatever. And in the preparation of the rice and peas, you would have the coconut milk. Now, traditionally, to make that coconut milk, you would get the dry coconut and you'd have to grate it. So there's a grater, a metal grater. You would husk out the coconut, wash them, and you'd have to be there grating the coconut, which is a tedious process. Can also be a painful process. It can cut your hands. You have to be skillful. You have to know how to do it. And then after you grate it, then you would pour the water and you would squeeze it, right? You would squeeze it and strain out the coconut milk, and that's how you'd get your coconut milk to make your rice and peas. Or you could put the coconut milk in your cornmeal porridge, right? And then certain other foods, if you're not grating, then you would be kneading it, actually kneading with your hands, right? So nowadays we have the blender, we have the juice extractor, we have tools to do with the kneading, we have tools to do all of these things. And you have some old timers, some really old school folks will tell you they refuse to even look at the coconut powder in the supermarket. So nowadays we have sachets of coconut powder. They cut their eyes past it. They will not even look at the coconut powder because for them it's just not the real deal. It's just not going to taste the same. And they want to know that all of that passion, all of that love went into the making of the coconut milk. So even if they might not use the blender anymore, they will still kind of like a middle ground to use to cut it up still, or put it in the blender and then they would still be squeezing it, right? But to go now to the extreme of just going to the supermarket to get a sachet of ready done, as we call it, ready done coconut milk powder, they will not have it, right? So they still want to know that there's that connection with the thing. Just like with some Jamaicans, we have what we call the Dutch pot, which is a traditional pot made from aluminum, um, but is shaped in a particular way and usually used on a wooden fire. So this fire is made outside. It's not usually not done on the electric stove or the gas stove. And some persons, they just feel that the food don't taste the same unless it is cooked in the Dutch pot or it is cooked on a wooden fire, right? So even if they might have the gas stove or the electric stove at home in their kitchen and they use that from time to time, if they want the real traditional Jamaican cooking, they will set up the coal stove outside or the wood fire and put on the Dutch pot, and it's a different tasting meal, right? Now, we have little restaurants about the place. You have tuck shop, you have cook shop, and you might see a man going to the restaurant and he might be looking at the person's cooking, and to some people the way you look tells them how the food is going to taste. Now I have heard Jamaican men say, if the woman is, and this is, it kind of is morbid in a way, because we have this thing called soul food, which is really a death trap when you think of it for our people. What we call the soul food, the greasy food, high carbohydrate, high meat, but it is what traditionally we are accustomed to, and it is tied into a lot of family bonds and get-togethers and celebrations. And so soul food for us is community, but at the same time, it's a death trap because it is linked to so many diseases: diabetes, heart disease, cancer, right? But there are persons who will tell you if the lady isn't fat, if she lift up her arms and the fat not sagging down, it means that she doesn't know anything about cooking. She not going to cook the food right? She's not going to be able to really put her hand into it, right? So there are persons, if you're going there, if you see the person cooking and they don't look like they themselves are familiar with a lot of food, then you're not going to feel like it tastes good, right? Again, you might have persons who are dating, getting to know each other, before they start a formal relationship. And for the man, he's not going to feel like, or traditionally, he's not going to feel 100% like he knows a woman until him taste her hand. So it's a saying we have: him want taste your hand, him want know how you cook. And it's just a thing, as I said, the way to a man's heart is to his belly. There is a lot of truth in that for most men, right? So him want taste your hand, him want you, either whether at your home or at his home or wherever, but he wants to sample your cooking and he want to know, so you put your hand in it. So anytime you hear a Jamaican say, you put your hand in it, or even better, you put your foot in another one here, right? So if you offer a Jamaican some food that you have prepared, and them say you put your foot in it, that's a very, very, very big compliment, right? So that's our first Jamaican saying: you put your foot in it, or you put your hand in it. All right, another saying that we have: too much of one thing, good for nothing. Too much of one thing, good for none. And literally that means too much of one thing is good for nothing. And this means that even good things can be overdone, even good things can lead to ruin. And this can be taken literally, in that if you think of all the things that are good for you, all the things that are necessities, all the things that are vital for your life: oxygen, water, heat, food, you name it, right? Even companionship, all of those things can be taken to excess to the point where it becomes cloying, it becomes even fatal. Something as vital as oxygen can be detrimental if you get too much. For example, preemies who have not developed their lung capacity yet, their breathing ability, the nurses in the preemie wards, they have to be careful in terms of how they give oxygen, supply oxygen to the incubator, because too much of it at any time can cause damage to the neonate. It can cause brain damage. It can cause them to be blind, right? So something as vital as oxygen in excess can be detrimental. Water in excess is detrimental, right? So if you drink too much water, your cells will burst. If you are submerged in water, your cells will burst and you will die, right? Or you will drown and you will die. So even though water is vital, we must have it. We absolutely must have it. I've gone on dry fast. For the longest dry fast I've gone on is 3 days. And I know of persons who have gone longer than 3 days without water. But for me personally, I wouldn't go more than the 3 days, because at the end of that, even though the dry fast is beneficial to your health, you must have the water. You must have the water for your bodily functions. Dehydration can cause death. But on the flip side of that, if you keep chugging in water, your body, you will start, your body will start trying to bring it up, to vomit it up because it just doesn't need it. But if, let's say, you were able to just keep chugging it in, your cells would burst, right? And this is what happens when persons are submerged in water, their cells burst. So it is detrimental in excess. Food is detrimental in excess. As we know, obesity is, especially morbid obesity, is a life-threatening condition. When we think of companionship, um, even the persons who are really dear to us, the people who we love and cherish, at some point we want to have space. We require that space to be by ourselves. So you don't want somebody constantly in your face. As much as you love the person, you don't want that person in your face all the time. Your children, you don't want them around you all the time. You just need some space for yourself. So no matter what the thing is and how good it is, right? We need heat to keep us warm and keep our bodies functioning well. But if we get too much heat, that can cause death, right? Hyperthermia can cause death. Hypothermia, too much cold, can cause death. So if we notice in nature tends to always try to strike a balance, try to always return to the normal, the average, right? So if it gets too high, there's a tendency to tone down to the middle. If it gets too low, there's a tendency to tone up to the middle. So the processes, natural processes, usually tend to want to neutralize, to stay in the middle, right? So we don't want anything in excess. We certainly don't want the bad things in excess, but sometimes we forget that even the good things can be in excess. Too much rest isn't good. Too much rest becomes laziness. Too much work becomes stress, right? So there's this saying when I used to go to school. There's this saying that all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, but all play and no work makes Jack a mere toy. So all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, boring. All play and no work makes Jack a mere toy. So you don't want to do anything in excess. You don't want to play in excess. You don't want to work in excess. You don't want to eat in excess. You don't want to abstain from eating in excess, right? So just do the essential. So when our ancestors, have these sayings, they're wise sayings, and they're to try to keep us safe, try to keep us on the straight and narrow. Too much of one thing, good for none. So sometimes you would hear somebody might be playing with you, somebody teasing with you, messing with you, and you might play back. After a while, you play back, and then you see that they don't intend to stop. They don't know, they don't have a limit. They don't know when to, okay, call it quits now. So you might hear the person say, all right, too much of one thing, good for nothing. Even though it's fun, we're having fun, yeah, but too much of one thing, good for nothing. You must know when to stop. You must know when the person has reached their limit. So these are things that we have to put our antennas up, and we have to read other person's body language. We have to read the situation and know when enough is enough. We have to know when enough is enough, right? So this is one of the things that it's a life skill. It's a social skill that we have to know. Yes, you can engage in particular activities to a point, but then you have to know when to stop. All right, the other Jamaican saying is we have a phrase that we say vex money, or more accurately, vex money. In Jamaica, when you say vex, that's just a regular vex. When you say a bex, bex with a B, that means you're really, really, really bex, right? So the bex money is money. Usually it's a woman who is being referred to here, but it could be anybody, right? But usually for a woman, when a woman has her bex money, and this is something that your mothers, your aunties, your grandma will tell you, always have your bex money. The bex money is money that a woman has to ensure that she doesn't fall prey to a situation which is going to leave her vulnerable, right? So it's money that a woman takes with her, especially on a date. She's going out with, she has been invited out with a guy. Even if it's somebody who she knows well, but especially if it's you're just meeting this person, it's your first date, especially in that case, she takes this money with her to ensure that if something goes wrong, she's not stranded and she doesn't become desperate. So always have your bets money, because you don't know what can go wrong. You might just be, and nowadays we have, online dating, and persons decide to link up, and yes, you're going on the date with a person. You may have been corresponding with this person online. You don't really know them. You're just seeing this, you're seeing pics that they send, even if you're talking with the person, doing FaceTime and so on. You don't really know them. You have not seen them in every situation, or all of the situations that's going to give you a really solid picture of who this person is. So you decide to link up, you're going to go on a date, all right? Anything can happen. I would say in Jamaica, any card can play. Any card can play. You might be there, you're talking, you're having fun, and then some topic arises, and then you realize, oh, so this is how this person feels about that topic, or a scenario is created, and you see how the person responds. You see how they respond to the waiter, you see how they respond to the others around you, see how they respond to you directly. Or it might be something just about their physical being that you weren't aware of, because they just presented online, and it's a deal breaker. It might be a deal breaker for you, and so you want to have that option to say, okay, if for whatever reason I decide that I don't want to go any further with this person, I don't even want to go beyond this minute with the person, you have the option. You can get yourself back home safely. If it's a case where a meal is involved, you can clear your debt for the meal. You can basically get yourself out of the situation without having to depend on the very person who you're going to want to get away from, right? So, but you meet the person, and all of a sudden, all the red flags become clear to you that were not clear to you before. You want to know that you can take yourself away safely. And Jamaicans are very proud people. Whether male or female, we're very proud. But for a Jamaican woman to put herself in the situation where she's having to rely on a stranger to get her back home safely, that's not something that we encourage. That's not something we partake of. So she will have her money. You have some girls nowadays, especially the younger women, who they have bought into this narrative of the man must fly you out, the man must pick you up, the man must take care of all your bills, the man must do this. So it's a more recent trend for the younger women to have this mentality that they're going to rely solely on the whims of this man, this stranger. He's going to fly you out to another country, to another part of the country. He's going to put you up in a hotel. And then some of them are very naive and very liberated, and they're living in their inside their head and not understanding that the other person might have expectations. The other person might not be as neutral as you are. The other person might not be as liberated as you are. They might still have expectations of you that they may not have worded, but they might think that it is understood. And so you go there with your naive self thinking, okay, so he flew me out, he bought me all these things, he paid for me for the room, he paid for everything, and I'm just going to be there with my pretty self, and then I'm gonna eat, and then he's gonna take me home, and he should not even think of me giving him anything in return. Now that is all well and good, and that in a perfect world, yes, that should be the case. But we don't live in a perfect world. We live in a world where men might have expectations of you. They might think that if they pay for certain things, you're going to give them certain things. Whether it's right or wrong, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking that they might have this expectation. And then you know are going to put yourself in a vulnerable situation. You're going to get upset. How dare you expect me to do this because that. Yes, that's all well and good for you in your head. But you're dealing with another person here who sees it differently. And this person might be bigger than you, more than likely, might have the upper hand depending on where this scenario is taking place. And if you don't have the wherewithal to get out of there, you will be at his mercy. So when your grandma said, make sure you have your Bex money, when your mother said, make sure you have your Bex money, these are wise words, right? It's that added layer of protection, as this phrase has become very popular now, especially just coming out of the COVID era, having that added layer of protection. It's an added layer of protection. We are hoping that when we go out with someone, even if it's someone we're meeting for the first time, we are hoping that this will be a decent human being, that this will be someone who will be respectful and thoughtful and respect boundaries. We're hoping that this is going to be the person. We're hoping that if it is the case where he's expected to take you home safely, that he will take you home safely. But have that added layer of protection in your pocket so that if it turns out that this person is perverted, that this person came with 10 red flags sticking out of him, that this person has expectations of you that you have no intention of meeting, then you can take yourself away from this situation speedily and without having to rely on him. And I'm using him because typically it's a him, right? Typically, but we know it can work either way. It could be the table, the thing could flip around. It could be a man in that position and the woman having the upper hand. This could very well be the case, right? But most of the time, it is the woman who is in the vulnerable position. And so she has to ensure for her safety, she has to ensure that she has the wherewithal to get out of that situation, right? So you have your Bex money. And this even in Jamaica, this even applies to long-term relationships where you have the woman, especially in a common law situation or even in a legal marital situation where they are living together, and especially if the woman isn't employed, so she's a stay-at-home mom, the man takes care of the bills, he makes the money, he might give her an allowance. What our Jamaican women have done traditionally from great grandma, mother, comes straight down, they will parcel off some of the money. And I'm sure this happens all over the world, but this is, I'm Jamaican, this is what I know, and this program is about the Jamaican way of life, Jamaican wise sayings. So our Jamaican women, let's say he gives her $100 per week, she might parcel off $10, right? Put it in a little bag, tuck it under the mattress, or tuck it wherever that she suspects he will not know that it is there, right? Next week she gets another $100. She might can put aside $5. She might can even put aside $1. It doesn't matter how much. Over the years, it piles up, and she will have that saving so that in case of anything, and she has to branch off on her own. In Jamaica, we also have this thing called a partner draw. In some countries, it's called a tontine. There are different names for it, but in Jamaica, we call it the partner draw. And many of our Jamaican women use that to get certain things done for themselves, right? Especially if they are not employed and they're relying solely on the man as the breadwinner. He might feel that, okay, I'm going to give her X amount of money, it's going to cover the bills, and it might be a way of controlling her where he's just going to give her a certain amount because he doesn't want her to go beyond, he doesn't want her to be doing things beyond what he wants her to do. He wants to keep a cap on things, right? But she, in her wisdom, in her ability to manage finances, she will secretly hide off, parcel off a little bit this time, a little bit that time, a little bit that time. And she might throw a hand in the partner, or she might throw two hands in the partner. She gets her partner draw, she put that up, and before you know it, she has a nice little sum of money set aside that he knows nothing about. Now, sometimes, certain situations might happen in the household, and she actually end up being the one to bail the family out of this, right? Now, there's a risk with doing that because let's say the man, there's some problem, there's some bill, there's some extra thing that needs to be taken care of, and the man can't do it. And then she decides, okay, you know, honey, I've been putting aside some money. I know you don't know about it, but I've been putting aside some money for a rainy day, and here it is. We can use it to get over this hurdle. Once he realizes that she's the type of woman who is putting this away, a number of things can happen that might be detrimental to that situation, right? He might feel, okay, so you were able to be putting away money. All right, so I'm giving you too much, right? I'm giving you too much since you're able now to be saving. Because some men, depending on their temperament, depending on their whole outlook of the male-female relationship situation, he might feel that there is no time that she should be having any kind of upper hand, right? Some men feel this way. And so even though she's bailing out the whole family out of the situation, he might look at it to say, oh, so you had enough to put away, you're getting too much. So he might stop giving her as much, right? Or he might continue giving her the same amount, but every now and then he's gonna want to go into it. He's gonna, maybe we can use the money that you have putting aside. Right? All of a sudden things are gonna start happening where he needs her to go get that. So once she decides that she's gonna let him know about it, it might be the end of it. it just might be the end of it. So for many women, the man never knows. The man never knows that she. I have heard of situations where the woman might own the house and the man doesn't know that she owns the house, and she makes him believe that they're paying rent for the house, and she collects that money every month. Say, okay, I'm going to give it to the landlord, I'm going to give it to the landlord. She's giving this to the landlord, which is herself, and he doesn't know that it's her house, right? So women have, I mean, there are different ways of looking at it, but one of the ways is just that women have to survive, and we have found ways of surviving in this patriarchal system, the system that is rigged against us. We have found ways of surviving, right? So make sure you have your best money. Make sure you have a little money put on in case anything happen. You can fall back on that. You don't have to be in a desperate situation. You never ever want to be desperate as a person, but especially as a woman. You never want to make yourself vulnerable. Always have your own. Always have something you can fall back on for you. And you don't have to depend, especially on a man, to bail you out of a situation, right? So always have your BEX money. In case you get BEX, you can use that to get yourself out of the situation. So the last wise saying for today is what we say, you take the word out of my mouth. You take the word out of my mouth. Now when Jamaicans are talking, we're in a group having a conversation, or even just you and one other person having a dialogue, and the person said, boy, you take the word right out of my mouth. So literally that means you have taken the word out of my mouth. What does that mean? Does that even make sense? How can you take a word out of somebody's mouth, right? Well, it means that you have said the exact thing that I was about to say, right? You just said the exact thing that I was about to say. Take the word right out of my mouth. And if you think about it, it's a real nice analogy to use, right? If we think of words as things coming out, flowing out, and if the person reach in and pull that word out of your mouth, put it in theirs, and they say it before you said it. So you take the word right out of my mouth, right? Which is confirmation that great minds think alike. Now, it might be, all right, so we're having a conversation and you foresee that something was about to happen, and you say, say that's a happen, or say as such you think, or say whatever, some prediction, some wise pondering, and you're thinking the same thing, just that the person went ahead of you or you went ahead of the person. But great minds do think alike, right? And fools seldom differ. So if you're speaking to a Jamaican and suddenly you find yourself being accused of taking the word right out of their mouth, it's not a bad accusation. It just means that you are just as wise as they are, and also you are quicker, maybe quicker witted than they are, to be able to have said it first, right? Now, I'm always, I love wisdom. I sit at the feet of wisdom. Wherever wisdom is, I find her and I sit at her feet. And this is why I am so in love with folk sayings. I am so in love with, all over the world, different cultures have their sayings. And of course, you're going to have some that overlap because we are humans and situations occur. Whichever culture you're in, they're going to be similar situations. So you're going to have some sayings in Jamaica, and you say, we have something similar in In South Africa, we have something similar. In Trinidad, we have something similar. In wherever it is, yes, there will be similarities, but but then there are those that are just peculiar. They are peculiar to that folk. They are peculiar to that culture, right? So let me know if you have anything in your culture that is similar to the wise sayings that we have talked about this today. So we talked about getting food from someone or giving someone food and being told, boy, you put your hand in another one here, you put your foot in another one here. Do you have anything similar to that where you are from in your neck of the woods? Let me know what that saying is and if there's any extension to the meaning. How about the other one? Too much of one thing, good for nothing. Do you have anything similar to that? Where you are from, are you advised by your mom, your grandma, your auntie, your big sister? Are you advised to always have your Bex money in case you get Bex and have to take yourself away from the situation? Are you cautioned to have your Bex money? Or what are you told? What does your grandma tell you or your mom tell you? Make sure to do this, make sure to have that to keep yourself safe. What are some of the advice that you are given to ensure that you stay safe, especially when you're going out to meet a stranger? And how about you take the word right out of my mouth? Do you have anything similar to that in your culture? Let me know about it. And I'm going to see you next week, where again we're going to talk about 4 different wise sayings from Jamaica. And trust me, I have dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of these sayings that I have gathered, and we're going to be exploring them, we're going to be exchanging, and I really want you to tell me what are the wise sayings in your neck of the woods, in your village. What do your folks say? All right, so until next time, this is Cam, and I will see you next